On the surface, the library in rural Deming, Washington isn't unlike any other small-town library in the United States. Servicing a town with a population of less than 500 and the remote surrounding area, the library's humble beginnings certainly didn't belie the important battle that would one day happen here.
The thing that we all remember about the Deming Library is the chickens that walk through the parking lot, because the neighbors have chickens, free-range chickens, and so it's a classic example of a rural American small-town library.
In June of 2004, the nation was still recovering from the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. In the wake of the tragedy, the United States government took unprecedented steps to prevent future attacks.
Some ways this story starts on 9/11. And all the concern there was then with security in the United States, in the Patriot Act that came out of that time in terms of how surveillance could be done, how the government could have information that it needed to have, and so on.
With every government agency in a perpetual state of high alert, virtually no lead was too small to investigate.
Well, I think it was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was working at the front counter, and this gentleman came up to the front desk and explained to me that he was with the FBI and that they would like information on who had checked out this book. It was a biography of Osama bin Laden. And I remember my first thought was, oh my, this is the situation we've been trained for.
The Deming branch was one of 9 libraries in the Whatcom County library system, and the library's refusal to comply with the FBI's records request was not a spur-of-the-moment decision.
Library did several things before the real story began. One thing it did was to reinforce the American Library Association's declaration that all people have the right to read what they please, to choose whatever they wish to choose, and that those choices would be confidential. All library staff were given training on what they should do if by chance there was a request for records.
When the FBI walked into the Deming Library in June of 2004, the library system was prepared.
Thanks to our training, the person on duty knew just what to do. She called the director, Joan. I guess it was Joan that told the agent that the library doesn't give information, any information, without a subpoena or court order.
Our library people expect us to uphold their trust. I mean, that's part of the reputation of a public library, is that whatever does happen in the library stays in the library.
The issue that got the FBI's attention, someone had written in the margins, if the things I'm doing is considered a crime, then let history be a witness that I am a criminal. Hostility towards America is a religious duty, and we hope to be rewarded by God.
It is a sobering quote, and I can understand how, especially given that time period in history, that someone would be, kind of taken aback by reading that in a library book.
Though the quote was disconcerting, a bit of quick research revealed that it was actually copied from another source.
I Googled the quote, and it brought me immediately to an interview with Osama bin Laden, and the quote in the interview was the exact same quote that was in the book. So I figured whoever wrote it in the book had read it on the website, and it sounded to me like somebody writing a term paper.
Even after being informed about the source of the quote, the FBI was undeterred. The FBI issued a subpoena for the library's records, and the Whatcom County Library Board called a special session to discuss the situation.
We talked through the consequences of what might happen. We talked about costs to the library system. We talked about personal cost, but we even talked about whether or not we would go to jail over this issue, and that we felt pretty steadfast that we would do anything we had to do to stop this.
What we got was a grand jury subpoena, and that's different from a subpoena under the Patriot Act. It's different in a really significant way. Under the Patriot Act, you don't have the option to make a motion to quash. You simply have to comply. In our case, the law provided for a hearing because it was a grand jury subpoena.
The grand jury subpoena gave the library system the ability to fight the case in court. In order to avoid escalating the situation to a point where the FBI might invoke the Patriot Act, the library board had agreed to keep the situation confidential while the proceedings played out.
It was a hard time. Felt like waiting for a shoe to drop.
Everything was kind of surreal. Can't talk to anybody else, and we're just trying to make this thing proper.
I was at a church conference where the denomination was voting on whether or not they would speak out against the Patriot Act. And when people said, well, why should we care? Nothing like that would ever happen here. And I'm sitting there not being able to speak to the issue.
The days and weeks passed slowly, but good news came just over a month later. With the library board standing firm to protect their patrons' privacy, the FBI decided to drop the subpoena and closed the book on the case.
The fact that we had a hearing was what concluded the case. The hearing process gives both parties a chance to set out, here are my interests, here's why my client should get what he or she wants. I had done that and asked that the subpoena be quashed unless the FBI could show some imminent harm, and they didn't.
As quickly as it had begun, the battle was over. Everything went back to normal, and the board didn't go out of their way to spread the word about what had happened. But the story wouldn't stay quiet forever.
Joan and I were both asked to talk on this panel at Banned Books Week, which is a yearly event at this local bookstore, Village Books, and we talked beforehand and agreed that this would be a good time to tell our story.
The FBI asked us for the names of all persons who had checked the book out. That crossed a line set by Washington state statute.
There was a student reporter from the Western Front at Western Washington University there that night, and that student wrote up the story of the evening, including particularly our story from Deming, and it got caught by the AP's wires and the story exploded.
The tale of the small-town library that took a stand for citizens' privacy struck a chord with people nationwide.
We were getting emails from all over the country. Some of them were not positive, but most were very positive. This came from a man in Denver, Colorado. Only in rural America can one still find feisty little stink bugs that don't play well with Big Brother. We found a picture of a stink bug on the internet, and we all wore feisty little stink bug buttons for a while.
Praise came in the form of more than just letters. The library's Board of Trustees was soon presented with the 2004 Robert B. Downs Intellectual Freedom Award for their actions. Library Director Joan Aroldi was also selected to receive the 2005 Penn Newman's Own First Amendment Award.
I didn't feel at all that it was a personal award because the library board was absolutely essential in making the decisions that they did.
The Penn Newman Award came along with an added bonus, a check for the amount of $25,000.
When this check came for the $25,000, it was determined that it would be an opportunity to start a foundation.
A dream of hers and of the library system and of the library board that would have been very difficult to start without that $25,000 came into being.
Since being founded in 2005, the Whatcom County Library Foundation has promoted and supported the library system through grants for projects and programs.
We see ourselves partly as an advocacy group. We see ourselves mainly as a support group to help the library system grow in ways that it dreams of growing.
Today, the foundation is able to carry on programs not only to boost and encourage freedom to read and privacy, but also to encourage populations that maybe don't come naturally to reading to read.
The library was, when I was a young man, a place where you went to learn, to research. Now, it has this new role. It is still a hub of the community.
Year in and year out, the foundation has supported unique programs that bring communities together and rally them around local libraries.
The Whatcom County Library Foundation is a proud supporter of the Whatcom Reads program, where we try to get everybody in Whatcom County to read the same book. We've had a variety of fantastic authors come to speak in Whatcom County as the culmination of an entire month or month and a half worth of programming, all centered around the theme of the book.
One of the many goals of the foundation is to encourage up-and-coming generations of lifelong readers and library users, starting with a program called Books for Babies.
Whatcom County Library Foundation and the Friends of the Bellingham Public Library both contribute to purchasing books for every single baby that has been born in Whatcom County. We're really thrilled to be able to give families their very first book from the library to encourage them to become lifelong library users.
The foundation funds library programs that engage families from all walks of life, including children and families that need extra support.
I think it is a safety net, in a manner of speaking, a learning safety net for many families.
There's a program aimed at teenagers who are in juvenile detention.
We picked high interest book topics to discuss and have had some amazing conversations that introduce these students to concepts that they may not have really thought about in detail before, and show them that reading and thinking about reading is really important and valuable to them.
There are other programs aimed at literacy. The foundation really is a very community-spirited organization and does a lot of good.
One of the biggest challenges that all modern libraries face is keeping pace with the rapid growth of technologies and the kids being raised in a technological world. A popular example of programs targeted at tech-savvy kids are afternoon and evening Minecraft programs, where teens gather to socialize and build new worlds together.
It's really engaging. It's a way for people to interact. And there are many teens who don't have access to computers at home, and the library can provide that to them. And so if they're there and they realize there are other resources available to them at the library, even better.
I think libraries represent communities coming together, people in the community coming together, and in rural areas, more so.
These are often the main civic building in a community.
We don't have perhaps museums and community recreation centers. We have our library.
Growing and supporting Whatcom County's libraries is a never-ending task, and one that is only made possible by the generosity of the community itself.
In Whatcom County, we are blessed by a wonderful community who values and supports their library and uses it in really high numbers. We all share a hope that libraries, public libraries, will continue infinitely into the future. And in order for that to happen, we need to build an endowment that can help sustain us financially over the long haul. We need to continue to work on privacy issues and communicating the value of public libraries across Whatcom County.
There's so many good causes out there to raise funds, and that's one of the challenges of every foundation. Well, certainly the library system itself, being a public entity, is limited. It can't do any fundraising. And so the role that the foundation plays is it works with the library system, identifies future needs, capital needs, and says, tell you what, let us help you raise those funds from the private sector.
Moving forward, the Whatcom County Library Foundation will continue to grow and adapt to an ever-changing world.
But there are still people in our community who don't know about the library, and we feel like those people are missing out. And we want to make sure that everybody in Whatcom County knows what their tax dollars are supporting, what others feel so strongly about that they're willing to provide their own funding to support, and we want everybody to get the maximum value out of the library system. So we really want to get that message out and encourage people to use the library.
Whatever the future may bring, the Library Foundation will continue to build upon the passion and dedication of its founding members.
For those of us who were involved in that process in 2004, it was a hard time when all of a sudden you had to put into action what you had intellectually said you believed in.
It was just a time of trying to do everything right. And looking back on it, I wouldn't change anything about what happened.
It is a joy to me that out of that hard time, something as good as the foundation has come.
Libraries are critical to the well-being of our community, and sustaining a vibrant library system requires ongoing public support. The Whatcom County Library Foundation invites you to be a part of this process by volunteering to serve on the Foundation Board, by joining your local library's Friends group, or through your much-appreciated financial support. Every contribution makes a difference, because Whatcom County Libraries are the best place to begin. To learn more about supporting Whatcom County Libraries, visit wcls.org/foundation.